We talked about the Dominion software. I know that there were voting irregularities. Tell me about that.
They were flipping votes in the computer system or adding votes that did not exist.
Very little is known about their ownership beyond what you're saying about Dominion.
It was created to produce altered voting results in Venezuela.
I assume that you are getting to the bottom of exactly what Dominion is.
There is much to understand about Smartmatic, which owns Dominion Voting Systems.
Fox News CEO Suzanne Scott is set to be deposed by Dominion Voting Systems legal team soon. They hope her deposition will provide critical insights into the $1.6 billion defamation case Dominion has filed against Fox News. I'm Yasmin Khan with Rebel HQ, and Suzanne Scott took over the top job at Fox News following the salacious firing of the former CEO Roger Ailes amidst multiple allegations of sexual misconduct. They made a whole movie about it. It was a big deal. Scott had quite the monster on her hands when she inherited the position from Ailes. She had to deal with the fallout from the Ailes scandal, and she had to rein in some hosts who were costing the company advertisers with some of the things that they were saying on air. In her time with the company, Scott has promoted several women to top positions, a win for feminism, it would appear. But Scott has also faced accusations that she had previously been Ailes' right-hand woman when it came to objectifying female hosts on the network, and that she was instrumental in driving support away from former Fox host Gretchen Carlson as Carlson attempted to expose Ailes. Now, many of you know Fox News is currently facing a $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit against Dominion Voting Systems following the network's coverage of the 2020 presidential election. Scott's deposition is expected to be a crucial component in the case against Fox News, as it's been reported that Scott was aware all along that the big lie was in fact a big fat lie. Still, as the head of the company, she allowed the lie to be perpetuated on the network, a move that would cost Dominion Voting Systems contracts, money, and its reputation.
The problem really is that nothing can get Fox, or at least seem to motivate them to doing the right thing and not lying to viewers, not pumping out conspiracy theories and disinformation. I was just watching Maria Bartiromo's show, and she was interviewing Trump, and she's asking him questions about whether someone else is directing Biden and in charge of the country. Like, this is some really loony stuff, and it seems that there's really no amount of litigation that can force them into being honest with viewers and toning back some of this coverage.
Opponents of the lawsuit like to allege that this is a matter of cancel culture and that the suit is an attack on First Amendment protections of free speech. But free speech does not allow for defamation and libel in journalism, especially when it costs a company money. In order to be successful in such a case, the prosecution should be able to prove that Fox News knew it was lying as it was lying, and that's where Suzanne Scott comes in. A judge has already granted Dominion's legal team access to Scott's text messages and emails from the time period in question. Within those messages, there was at least one instance where Scott was skeptical of the claims being made on the network regarding election tampering and election stealing. According to the New York Times, a colleague of Scott's recounted a meeting that took place just after the Trump-Biden election, in which Scott was in disbelief that anyone reasonable could think that Trump could actually stop Biden's confirmation and inauguration. On top of that, Dominion's lawyer cited a message that Scott sent in which she warned against, quote, giving the crazies an inch. The crazies, of course, referring to election deniers and pro-Trump conspiracy theorists. Along those lines, Fox News did call certain states for Joe Biden on election night, specifically Arizona, before Trump was ready to concede those losses. That move led to Trump denouncing the network and telling his supporters to watch Newsmax instead. Still, while Scott may have been wary of the crazies immediately following the election, it seems her warnings went unheeded as several hosts were allowed to perpetuate unfounded election lies for months or years, really, after the election. Election denial became a linchpin of the network's election-related coverage, and hiding behind the First Amendment, Fox lawyers said, quote, there is nothing more newsworthy than covering the President of the United States and his lawyers making allegations. In other words, Fox News is claiming that they were simply reporting on claims that Trump himself was making, and they're arguing that anything Trump says is newsworthy because he was the president. In a rebuttal, Dominion spokeswoman said, quote, if it were up to Fox, the more newsworthy the lie, the greater their right to spread it. However, the First Amendment does not give broadcasters the right to knowingly spread lies or disregard the truth. This is a fight that's bigger than a bottom line, whether it's Dominion's or Fox News's. Dominion isn't backing down despite Fox's efforts to diminish the suit because Dominion sees it as bigger than either party involved. It's about journalistic integrity and the notion that a profit motive can justify literal lies. The New York Times article mentions a Fox News mantra that has guided Scott's decision-making during her time as CEO, to respect Fox's audience, which means with this particular audience, not telling them things they don't want to hear and not showing them things they don't want to see. It's about protecting and even reinforcing the bubble that they all choose to live within and find comfort within. It's about defending the bubble at all costs, even if it means making controversial decisions, like Scott's initial decision to not air the January 6th committee hearings. The network aired its regularly scheduled programming instead of what was considered by many to be one of the most influential and pertinent hearings in our nation's history regarding one of the most unprecedented and damaging events in our nation's history. Part of that decision probably had something to do with the fact that many of the insurrectionists at the Capitol on January 6th were some of those same crazies that Scott had originally been wary of. They were the crazies that had been radicalized, at least in part, by Fox News' broadcasts. Fox News hosts were even implicated in the hearings for perpetuating the former president's knowingly false claims, with text messages between Fox host Sean Hannity and former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows illustrating just how involved in the insurrection plot Hannity was. In the riot that followed months of false election claims, several people were killed, Capitol Police were beaten and overrun by rabid Trump supporters, our Capitol was ransacked and defecated in, our former vice president was threatened with gallows, and our entire Congress was threatened with mob violence. Additionally, the New York Times conducted an investigation in which it found that the Murdochs, the notorious media family behind Fox News, has destabilized democracy on 3 continents with barely a slap on the wrist. The Murdochs were informed of Scott's decision not to air the hearing, and they supported it. Complicity should not go unpunished, but let's be real, I'll be surprised if we see the downfall of the Murdochs anytime soon. Instead, we can all just rewatch Succession and pretend that there's a silver lining somewhere within that storyline that can maybe be applied to real life one day. The monopolization of industries, billionaire media moguls, profit over people, profit over country, these are the things that will bring down democracy in the United States if they continue to go unchecked. For a nation that was once considered the bastion of democracy around the world, not only that, but its fierce and morally obligated defender around the world, our own history with democracy has been problematic from the beginning. Still, there was still hope as long as we were consistently taking steps in the right direction as far as who was allowed to participate in the democratic process and how seriously we treated voter protections and election integrity in this country. We are regressing, and as we're seeing, it's a slippery slope from democracy to fascism, from democracy to anarchy, and from democracy to whatever MAGA is and whatever MAGA represents. All right, that's it for me. Please like and subscribe if you got something out of this content, and be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you.